Let's not sugarcoat it. They tossed you aside like you were replaceable, acted like you were forgettable, dismissed your love like it was some favor they never asked for. And now, they're watching you, lurking behind blocked profiles, asking mutual friends how you've been, scrolling through your stories with a heart pounding in their chest they swore had moved on. Because here's the reality. They may have rejected you publicly, but privately, they're obsessing. Let's get one thing straight. This video is not for the emotionally fragile or the one still begging for breadcrumbs. This is for you, the one who's waking up and realizing the obstacle is the way. Marcus Aurelius. Their silence. That was your permission to rise. You see, avoidants are great at acting unbothered, cold, detached, distant. But beneath that mask is a storm they can't control, because deep down they know what they gave up. They know they ran from someone who would have never run from them. You showed up. You loved them in a way that scared them. And instead of rising to meet you, they retreated, like they always do. But don't get it twisted. That rejection wasn't about your worth. It was about their capacity. And the more you've healed, the more obsessed they've become. Why? Because you did something rare. You didn't chase. You didn't beg. You didn't spiral. You didn't throw your dignity away in a 2 a.m. message thread. You pulled back. And that silence, it's echoing in their mind every night like a scream they can't block out. The less you respond to drama, the more powerful you become. Unknown. And let's not pretend this is a love story. This is a power shift. You're not their second chance. You're the reminder of what they couldn't handle. And that truth, it haunts them. So if you're here for validation, you're in the wrong place. But if you're here for truth, for power, for a full-on psychological breakdown of what's really happening behind their cold exterior, then buckle up. Because in this video, we're breaking down exactly why your avoidant ex is still secretly obsessed, even after they rejected you, even after they replaced you, even after they said, "I'm fine." We'll show you the emotional triggers they can't suppress, the subtle signs they're watching from the shadows, and the silent regret they'll never say out loud, but will always feel. By the end of this video, you won't just understand their behavior, you'll own the meaning of it. Because power isn't found in reaction, it's found in restraint. He who angers you conquers you. Elizabeth Kenny. You didn't lose them, you found yourself. And that's the part they can't stand. So stay until the end, because this isn't just about closure. This is about awakening, about knowing what you're worth, how you broke the cycle, and why they'll always obsess over the version of you they never truly deserved. And if you've ever doubted whether walking away was the right choice, just wait until key point 4, because what I'll reveal there about the silent hell they enter after you detach will hit like a punch to the gut they never saw coming. But before we go deeper, I want you to do 3 quick things. Like this video if you've ever been rejected and came back stronger. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the truth they don't want you to hear. Share this with someone who needs to know. They weren't crazy. They were just ahead of their time. And one more thing. Join our channel membership to support the mission of truth, healing, and inner power. When you join, you're not just helping us keep this content going. You're joining a brotherhood of people who've stopped playing small. Drop this in the comments and type it like you mean it. They rejected me, but I reclaimed my power. Say it. Own it. Let it echo through the very space they thought they'd silence. Now let's expose the obsession they're too proud to admit. Because behind that fake indifference, they're cracking. And you're about to watch it all unfold. Let's begin. Stay focused. Key point 1. The rejection was never about your worth. It was about their fear. Let's get brutally honest right here. Your avoidant ex didn't reject you because you weren't good enough. They rejected you because you were too real, too emotionally available, too consistent, too secure, and that threatened their entire nervous system. See, avoidants don't fall in love like most people. They crave connection, but fear closeness. They want love, but the second it feels safe, they panic. Why? Because somewhere in their past, maybe childhood, maybe a toxic ex, they learned that intimacy means danger, that closeness equals suffocation. So the moment someone offers them love without conditions, without games, without ego, they don't lean in, they pull away. And if you're the kind of person who shows up, communicates clearly, and gives without manipulation, that's not boring to them. It's terrifying. You were a mirror, and that mirror reflected everything they hadn't yet healed. Their fear of being seen, their inability to receive, their internal war between wanting love and believing they don't deserve it. You didn't lose them because of some flaw. You lost them because you didn't enable their dysfunction. Let's take it back to Stoic wisdom. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Marcus Aurelius. You were being that man or that woman, steadfast, loving and intentional, and instead of rising to meet you, they ran. Because they weren't ready for real. They weren't ready for you. But here's the twist that they never expected. They thought rejecting you would bring them peace, that it would relieve the pressure, that being alone or with someone less intense would give them space to breathe. But all it did was make them miss the stability you brought. Now that you're gone, the highs from the rebound are wearing off. The silence is growing louder, and every calm moment is haunted by the ghost of what you offered. That's why they're obsessing. Not because you're gone, but because now they get it. Too late. They didn't reject you. They rejected the very thing they always said they wanted. But let's be clear. Their fear is not your responsibility, and their rejection, it was actually a redirection, one that led you back to your own self-worth. And here's the truth they'll never admit. They didn't expect you to handle it so well. They didn't expect you to rise. They didn't expect you to glow up, get quiet and move forward with grace. But you did. And that's what keeps them checking your profile at midnight. Not regret over what they did, but torment over what they can no longer access. Stay tuned for key point 2. Because once we break down how your silence became your greatest weapon, you'll see exactly why the obsession keeps growing. Key point 2. Your silence hit harder than any words ever. Could you want to know what truly shakes an avoidant to their core? Not a speech, not a confrontation, not a tearful goodbye. It's your silence. Not the kind of silence that's bitter or performative. I'm talking about that still, grounded silence. The kind that comes from power, not pain. From self-respect, not revenge. See, when they walked away or ghosted, they expected a reaction. They expected the calls, the "can we talk" texts, the late-night emotional confessions. They expected the breakdown that would feed their ego and confirm their twisted belief that they're in control. But you did something different. You gave them nothing. No drama, no panic, just space. And here's the thing most people never understand about avoidance. They crave control, but they fear abandonment. So when you walked away without a fight, it flipped their entire emotional script. You didn't just walk away. You closed the door without slamming it. And that quiet, dignified exit, it's haunting. He who does not react is more feared than he who does. Unknown. You see, words give them ammo. They can twist them, dismiss them, analyze them. But silence. They can't argue with silence. They can't decode it, can't disarm it, can't escape it. It becomes a reflection of everything they avoided facing. And now, every quiet moment they spend scrolling or sitting alone, they feel your absence in the very places they once felt your presence. That silence becomes deafening when they go on a date and feel nothing. They try to distract themselves but keep checking who's viewed their story. They wake up at 2 a.m. and instinctively wonder if you're awake too. They might pretend they're unbothered, posting selfies, cryptic quotes, or pretending they're thriving. But behind that curated calm is pure chaos. Your lack of reaction has more weight than 1,000 emotional outbursts. Why? Because it signals something they didn't think you'd ever have. Detachment. And nothing scares an avoidant more than someone they thought would wait forever, who no longer does. That's when the obsession begins, not at the breakup. But the moment they realize your silence isn't a tactic, it's a new truth, a new version of you they don't know how to reach, a version that no longer needs them. Your silence said everything they refused to hear. You are no longer the center of my world. And that single message, delivered without a word, hits harder than any angry voicemail ever could. In the next point, we'll dive deeper into what triggers their obsession to intensify, especially when they see you evolving while they're emotionally stuck. Because once you reclaim your energy and stop chasing, they start spiraling. Let's keep going. Key point 3. Your evolution exposed their emotional stagnation. Let's be real. At first, they thought leaving you meant leveling up, that detaching from the relationship would bring them peace, freedom, clarity. They told themselves, I need space, I need to focus on me. But here's the twist. You actually did grow. You took the heartbreak and turned it into fuel. While they escaped into distractions, you evolved. And that, more than anything, is what's eating them alive right now. Because nothing drives an avoidant ex crazier than seeing the person they left behind become everything they secretly admired, but couldn't handle. See, they expected to look back and see you spiraling, to hear through friends that you were falling apart, to check your profile and find you posting cryptic, sad quotes, or trying too hard to move on. But instead, you went quiet, you leveled up, and the contrast became undeniable. While they're still stuck in emotional patterns, avoiding depth, dodging vulnerability, numbing out with surface-level interactions, you're out here glowing in your purpose, rebuilding your peace, moving in silence. You started hitting the gym harder. You started that business. You surrounded yourself with people who see you, not just use you. You reclaimed your time, energy, and boundaries. First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. Mahatma Gandhi. And here's the thing about avoidance. They don't often realize the impact of their decisions until they see your transformation and can't access it anymore. Suddenly their freedom feels like isolation. Their independence feels like emptiness. And your growth. It becomes a mirror reflecting everything they're not doing. They're still emotionally dodging real connection, still refusing to look inward, still using temporary people to escape permanent pain. And while they're pretending to be unbothered, your evolution is louder than any confrontation ever could be. Because let's face it, you were never the problem. Your love was just too honest for someone still hiding from themselves. And now, every post you make, every glow-up photo you share, every moment you seem at peace, it's a trigger. It's a reminder that you didn't just survive without them. You thrived. That evolution doesn't just make them curious. It makes them obsessed. Because while they left thinking they were choosing themselves, they're now left watching you become someone they no longer have access to. And access denied. That's an avoidant's worst nightmare. Stay with me, because in key point 4 we're going into the psychological collapse that begins inside an avoidant when they realize you're gone and not coming back. That's when the obsession becomes unavoidable. That's when they start losing control. That's when the ghosting becomes regret, but they're too proud to admit it. Let's keep going. Key point 4. Detachment. Triggered their inner collapse. They just don't show it. This is the point where things get real dark for them. Because detachment isn't something an avoidant ex ever truly expects from you. They count on your hope to keep them in control. They count on your confusion to keep you circling back. They count on your love to keep you emotionally available, even after they're long gone. But when that dynamic breaks, when your energy pulls back for good, when your peace becomes louder than your pain, it flips their entire nervous system into quiet chaos. This is what no one tells you. Avoidants don't process loss like everyone else. At first, they feel relief. They feel free. They distract, detach, dive into work, dating, or spiritual bypassing. But give it time. Let the silence marinate. Let your absence grow roots. Because after the distraction fades, after the attention dries up, after the new gets boring, that's when the collapse begins. They start to feel it in the pit of their stomach. That ache, that emptiness, that presence of your absence. They'll never admit it. Avoidants are experts at acting unfazed. But pay attention to the signs. Random views on your stories after weeks of silence. Their names suddenly showing up in people you may know. Cryptic social media posts hinting at regret or nostalgia. Mutual friends asking how you're doing out of nowhere. These aren't accidents. These are emotional SOS signals from someone who's too prideful to say they messed up, but too haunted by the loss to pretend they're fine. Because when they realize you didn't just detach from them, you detached from the entire idea that you needed them, that's when it shatters their internal narrative. The man who moves a mountain begins by carrying away small stones. Confucius. And you've been doing that, one silent day at a time. You didn't blow up their phone. You didn't post to prove a point. You just disappeared. That kind of disappearance isn't weak, it's terrifying to someone used to emotional power plays. Because they're no longer sure where they stand. No longer sure if they could reach you, even if they tried. And here's the secret you need to hear. I didn't lose them. I found me. Type it in the comments right now. Say it loud. Own it. Because that's the truth they're choking on. You didn't just move on. You awakened. And while they're spinning in silent guilt, you're rising in purpose. And that's why they're obsessed. Because you're no longer the version of you they once walked away from. You're unreachable now. Not because you're bitter, but because you're better. You became the consequence of their cowardice. You became the outcome they never thought they'd face. And that's the collapse that keeps them up at night. That's the silence that screams, "We're not done yet." In the next key point, we'll break down how their obsession silently escalates even when they're with someone new. Because trust me, this story isn't over. Not for them. Key point 5. Even if they're with someone new, you still haunt them. Let's kill the illusion once and for all. Just because they moved on fast, just because they're posting selfies with someone new, just because they look happy now, doesn't mean they're healed. In fact, that rush to replace you, that's not strength, that's avoidance in action. Avoidants don't sit with pain, they escape it. They don't process loss. They bypass it. They don't reflect. They replace. And here's what they'll never say out loud. That rebound, that upgrade, that new connection they're parading around like a trophy. It was never about love. It was about distraction. Because when they see someone like you, grounded, loving, present, and they walk away from it out of fear, they know deep down they won't find that twice, so they rush. Not toward a new connection, but away from the weight of their regret. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Seneca. But imagination is exactly where you still live for them. Not as the person who hurt them, but as the one who didn't. You were the calm they didn't know how to receive, the presence they didn't know how to match, the love they didn't believe they deserved. So even when they're laughing with someone new, they're comparing. Even while touching someone else, they're remembering that one inside joke. The way you used to speak life into them, the stillness of your energy, the way you never made them beg for understanding. Their new person might be fun, might be easy, might even look like an upgrade on the surface, but they weren't there for the growth. They didn't witness your love at its depth. They don't carry your energy. And that's what haunts an avoidant. Because no matter how many new faces they chase, they can't outrun the version of you they abandoned. They'll go through the motions, try to replicate the connection, but something always feels missing. Something feels off, and that void, it doesn't get filled with bodies. It doesn't get solved by moving on. Because it wasn't about finding someone better. It was about realizing they already had the best, but they couldn't face themselves long enough to keep it. So now they're stuck in a loop, trying to replace what they won't admit they miss. Acting fine while secretly watching everything you post. Smiling in selfies while mourning your presence in silence. That's why they're still obsessed. Because while you've done the work to truly move on, they've only pretended. And deep down, they know it. In the next point, we'll unpack the final stage, the quiet desperation that sets in when they realize you're no longer waiting, no longer watching, and no longer reachable. Because obsession doesn't peak at the breakup. It peaks at your disappearance. Let's finish this. Key point 6. Obsession peaks. When they realize you're unreachable. This is the final blow, the moment that truly breaks them, not when you walked away, but when they realize they can't come back. You see, most avoidant exes operate on a loop. They push you away, they create distance, they lose interest. But deep down, they believe they can always return when it's convenient, that you'll always be there, waiting, wondering, willing. It's not ego, it's wiring. They assume you'll always hold space for them, because you always did. Until now. Now you've healed. Now you've disconnected emotionally. Now they can feel your energy closed off, even if you've never said a word. That's the moment obsession fully sets in. Because avoidants aren't afraid of losing you. They're afraid of losing access to you. And now they realize you've become unreachable. Not because you're angry, not because you're punishing them, but because you're free. Free from wondering when they'll call. Free from decoding mixed signals. Free from performing to be loved. And the version of you that once bent over backwards to keep them close. That version is gone. Don't chase, don't beg, don't stress. The right people who belong in your life will come and stay. Wu Wei. But avoidants expect the opposite. They expect to be chased. They expect you to orbit around them forever. And when you don't, they spiral quietly but violently. They replay old conversations. They scroll through photos they swore they deleted. They bring you up in random conversations, pretending it's casual. They check your profile, hoping for signs of weakness, signs of longing, and find nothing, just peace. That's when the fear hits. Because now you're not an option, you're not an emotional crutch, you're a lesson, and lessons don't come back. They might try to act unbothered, might even breadcrumb you just to see if the door's still open. But when you don't respond like you used to, when your tone changes, when your eyes don't hold that same softness, they feel it. They realize the energy is gone. The connection has died. And worst of all, you didn't need revenge. You didn't need closure. You didn't need them to validate your pain. You just moved on. And that kind of strength, it lives rent-free in their mind. Because obsession doesn't come from love. It comes from loss. From knowing they had something rare and ruined it. From knowing you were real and they were running. So let me leave you with this. Their obsession is not your validation. Their regret is not your responsibility. Their confusion is not your chaos to clean up. You're not someone they lost. You're someone they'll never get back. And that's the moment their obsession becomes permanent. Let's bring this all home in the final point. Because the person you're becoming is about to be their lifelong trigger. Key point 7. You became the one thing they can't escape. A walking reminder of what they couldn't handle. Here's the brutal truth. You didn't just walk away. You transformed. And that transformation didn't just shake them. It shadows them everywhere they go. Every person they date, every quiet moment they try to escape. There you are, not physically, but energetically, as a memory, a feeling, a standard. See, when you do the inner work, when you rebuild yourself from the ground up, you don't just move on. You become unrecognizable to the version of you they once controlled. And that version of you, the one who tolerated mixed signals, second chances, and emotional games. They thought that version would last forever. But now, you've evolved into someone that requires emotional maturity, someone that doesn't settle for breadcrumbs, someone that loves deeply, but walks away silently when respect is lost. And that's what haunts them. You can't heal in the same environment that broke you. Unknown. And you didn't. You left. You healed. You leveled up. In silence, in style, and in strength. But here's where it hits hardest for them. Now, they can't even approach you the same way. Their old tactics won't work. Their apologies feel empty. Their energy doesn't match yours anymore, and they know it. So, they keep watching from afar. And every time they try to connect with someone new, they're chasing the ghost of what they had with you. Every good morning text they send someone else is secretly weighed against the way you used to check in with their soul. Every safe conversation feels dull next to the raw honesty you brought. Every "I miss you" they hear feels cheap because it doesn't carry the depth of what they gave up. Because let's be real, they didn't just lose someone who loved them. They lost someone who understood them, who saw them, who would have stood beside them if they had just stayed still long enough to grow. Now they're stuck with regret. But it's not just regret over you, it's regret over what they'll never find again. And that regret becomes a trigger they'll carry into every new connection. Because every time they meet someone, they'll wonder, will they love me like that? Will they see me the way you did? But the answer will always be no, because they don't want someone like you. They want you. And now, you're gone. That's what makes your evolution so powerful. You didn't just move on. You became the living consequence of their avoidance. And that's a reminder they can't escape, because it lives inside them now. So let me say this loud and clear. You were never too much. You were never too intense. You were just ahead of your time. And now that they're ready, you're unavailable. You're no longer reachable. Not emotionally, not spiritually, not energetically. You became the one that got away. The one that grew away. The one that became everything they'll keep searching for in everyone else, but never find again. That's the final stage of their obsession. Not craving you back, but realizing they can't get you back, because the person you've become, they were never equipped to meet you there. You didn't just rise. You became a standard they'll never reach again, a standard they set in motion by rejecting you. And now, you live in their silence forever. So now you know. They didn't move on. They didn't forget you. They didn't win. They just lost access to the one person who would have loved them through anything. You didn't just survive their rejection. You became the result of it. And now, every time they watch you in silence, every time they scroll through your stories, every time they wonder if you still think about them, they're not missing the old you. They're haunted by the one they were never ready to face. That's the price of emotional avoidance. You don't just lose people. You lose the version of yourself that could have grown with them. But you did grow. You let the silence shape you. You let the rejection refine you. You became the lesson they'll carry into every future, almost. So if this video hit you in the chest, if it cracked something open inside you, don't just scroll on. Let us know you're walking in truth now. Comment this mantra below. They lost me when I found myself. Like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to remember who they are. And if you want to support this movement, this mission of calling out emotional manipulation and guiding people back to their power, join our channel membership. Every video we drop is for you, and with your support, we can keep dropping truth that most people are too afraid to say out loud. Next video preview, you might be thinking, if they're still so obsessed, why do they keep me close but never fully commit? Why do they keep texting, keep watching your stories, keep popping back in, just enough to spark hope, but never enough to actually show up? That's not confusion, that's strategy. And in the next video, we're exposing it completely. The real reason your avoidant ex keeps you close, but never commits. You don't want to miss this one. Because the game they're playing? We're about to shut it down forever. I'll see you there. Stay sharp, stay silent, stay powerful.